Welcome to Burning Questions. This is a place to bring the questions we carry in a rapidly heating up world. Questions about grief and love, about fear and courage, and how to be human and even help transform what's unfolding. I'm Leslie Davenport, a climate psychology consultant, and I'm very excited to introduce today's guest, Dr. Jade Sasser. She's an award-winning interdisciplinary scholar and author of Climate Anxiety and the Kid Question: Whether to Have Children in an Uncertain Future, and On Infertile Ground: Population Control and Women's Rights in the Era of Climate Change. She's currently an associate professor at the University of California, Riverside. And Jade, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, let's jump right in. What was your climate wake-up moment, that point when the severity and crisis of what we're facing really hit home for you?
Well, I have to say, like so many people, the wake up moment for me came when I was personally and directly impacted. So I had been researching issues related to climate change for a number of years. However, in 2020, there was a fire known as the Bobcat Fire that hit
Mm,
Pasadena, California, which is where I was living at the time. And that fire led to local evacuations. They were voluntary, but it was an evacuation warning. And at that time, that was the closest wildfire event that I had ever
mm,
experienced.
mm,
Certainly nowhere near the scale or intensity or destruction of the more recent fires in Pasadena last year.
yeah.
But that moment when I had to evacuate my home because a wildfire had gotten within about 3 miles. It was frightening on a level that I just had never experienced before. And all of the research, all of the data, all of the intellectual analysis flew
Mm,
out the window. And that for me was the moment when real climate anxiety kicked in, and it's never left.
mhm. With that level of harm and upheaval and experiencing it so directly, what have you discovered for ways to navigate this? What do you find supports you?
I think that, well, for me personally, I have a spiritual practice. I practice Buddhism. And for me, it's very grounding. It helps me to stay in the present, to not reach too strongly for the past, and certainly to not lament or be too fearful of the future. Um, I live with the understanding that the only moment that I can impact day to day is the moment that we are in right now.
Yes.
And for those who don't have a spiritual or religious practice, though, I know that it is very helpful to spend time in nature, and I do that as much as possible too. So, going on walks, going hiking, cultivating my own garden. I, for many years, was not able to grow anything. In fact, I was a notorious plant killer, but somehow over the past couple of years, I've developed enough of a green thumb that I've got about a dozen plants in the house and plants, outside in the yard, and I spend time with them. I love to get my fingers in the dirt, and
Mm,
it feels very healing and grounding.
wonderful. Yeah. Well, given that you've been exploring this for a long time, personally, professionally, in your teaching and your research, from where you stand, what might be one of the most powerful actions that we can take to make change to help with the transformation?
Well, from my perspective, intergenerational collaboration and coalition building is really important. And Why I say that is because, so I'm a university professor. I spend a lot of my time with people who are between the ages of 17 and 24 years old.
Mhm.
They often tell me of their frustrations and challenges with people in older generations, whether those people are their parents, bosses, mentors, older family members. Um, they express a lot of frustration because they feel that older people in their lives often expect them to, quote unquote, save the world,
Mhm.
to take on these big, really pressing existential life questions and issues, climate change, other environmental challenges, social justice issues. They feel a certain amount of pressure to really take these things on and solve the problems for all of us, which is more than anyone can do. Um, but they also often feel that that kind of expectation on the part of older people is a relinquishing of responsibility
Mhm.
among older folks. And so hearing that perspective is really helpful for me because then I can go to my counterparts in Gen X and above and really sort of have a different kind of conversation and say, okay, young people have a lot to offer. They have really important perspectives based on this time when they were born and how they have lived their entire lives within a climate crisis. They have a unique generational perspective on social issues. They can connect the dots a lot more easily than people who came before them, etc. But we can't give up our role and our responsibility to work with them. They have tools, they have resources, they have access, and they have knowledge around things like social media and forms of communication and technology that maybe some of us or some older people might not be as comfortable with.
Mhm.
But also, those of us who have been on the planet longer have a longer term perspective. We have some wisdom through lived experience. We have some, I think, wisdom, if we can admit to it, wisdom through mistakes, things that we have
Yes.
done wrong and wish that we had done differently. And so, if we could share that in partnership with younger people,
Mhm.
rather than A, expecting young people to sort of do it for us, or B, telling young people what to do, but rather really work together with them as peers and collaborators. I think there's a tremendous opportunity there.
Mhm. That is tremendous. Yep. Yep. Well, given that our experience with climate change, it has waves and the emotions have waves, and sometimes things may feel a bit calmer, sometimes it's more tense. So, is there something that you've discovered that's sort of your go to? You've talked about it a little bit with your Buddhist practice and being in the garden, but just kind of an anchor or something that allows you to kind of reconnect, refresh, get restarted again, that sustains you.
To be honest, yes, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with climate change or climate awareness. But over the past year, I've really gotten into a fitness practice. So I do Pilates.
Oh,
And I have to say, being really anchored and centered in my body,
mm-hmm,
in my breath, being able to develop and feel a sense of strength, to see
mm-hmm,
myself growing, getting stronger, becoming more flexible, having a stronger core. It actually helps me build confidence in the awareness that I can be resilient, that I can bounce back when challenges come along, not just physical challenges, but
yes.
other challenges too. And I think that whatever kind of practice people might have, if they can develop some kind of consistent, sustained practice, whether it's physical, whether it's spiritual, whether it is nature based, or something else creative.
Mm-hmm,
Um, but I find the consistency is really key because when I go back to it, whether I'm having a great day or a horrible day, I know that it will always be there to sustain me. And for me, going back to the Pilates example, it has become so important to me because I have been so consistent with it. And so when I think about that in terms of Buddhist meditation, spending
Mhm.
time in nature, the consistency is important, really important for me.
Yes, and I'm hearing in there too, reconnecting with our bodies. We get, when we look at all the themes that may have been part of how we got to where we are, chopping things up and disconnections and all of this, I really think losing that integration of our body with our emotions and our insights and everything else is really key.
Absolutely. And if I can add one last
Please.
thing, spending time with people who are important to us. It sounds so simple. Sometimes we can take it for granted. But I, in particular, have really, really determined not to take it for granted. And in part, that's because, I have family members who are scattered across the country. I can't just walk down the street and be at my mother or sister or cousin's or niece's house. I have to really make an effort to spend real time with
Mm.
family members. But it makes me really cherish those moments all the more and to work even harder to build and strengthen relationships with the people who do live nearby.
Yeah, yeah. Well, before we close up, anything else you'd like to add that's on your heart or mind or related to your work that we didn't touch on?
I would just say, even though I said at the start that, climate anxiety came into my awareness and never left, I do want to say, and I really appreciate my students for this reason, um, climate emotions are not static, they're dynamic, and so many emotions can coexist at the same time. So
Yeah.
even having an awareness of distress or anxiety or the challenging emotions that can also sit alongside joy or hopefulness or determination. And so for me, just keeping an awareness of the fact that emotions are dynamic and sometimes temporary and ever changing
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
also very helpful for me.
Yeah, I love that too. I often talk about it's not so much wanting one emotion and trying to get rid of others, but that feelings flow. And that's when it's healthy, is that they move and they flow.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much
Thank you.
for this conversation.
Absolutely.
Um,
Thank you.
for those of you listening, if you'd like to learn more about Dr. Sasser's work or be in touch with her, there are these links on the screen and in the caption. And please subscribe to the channel so that you can be notified when our next episode comes out because we're always stronger together. Thanks for joining us.